Good morning, Christian Stronghold Church.
Your host today for our morning's breakfast show. I want to thank you for joining us in the sanctuary here and online. Today we are going to be talking about taking action in your community. And we have a special guest with us today. But before we bring our guest, let's check out this quick devotional.
What's up, brothers? It's Ira Lark here again. And I wanted to come back to this 5 mandates for the godly man. So I feel like I skipped over the day that I should have gave you from the beginning. So I just want you guys to check this one out. And I really hope it's a blessing to you as it was to me. And here's how it starts. Have you ever heard, be a man? If you are like most men, you have. But what does it mean to be a man? A true man of God. Today, the world no longer recognizes real men because it attempts to redefine what a real man looks like, which is contrary to God's design. Being a man of God, is a choice. Many of us think we are a man of God, but we have never really taken the time to investigate what it looks like to be a man after God's own heart. For many, it is just because we have not put ourselves in the hands of the master. Take a football, for example. The only way to achieve its ultimate purpose is for it to be placed in a skilled man's hands. A quarterback, a master. The master is the one who knows how to get the most out of something. It's no different for average Joes like you and me to identify the very thing most men seek, true purpose. We need to put ourselves in the hands of the master. Because when we are in his hands, I can assure you, we are not just an average Joe, but rather someone built to succeed, a man of action. Men, we have an identity problem. I believe this truth has led to the greatest problem in the world today. Men who have abdicated their role as husband, father, and leader. This statement may surprise you. After all, isn't sin the greatest problem? For the unbeliever, sin means nothing. So in the secular world, the statement rings true. But what about for Christians? The truth is that sin is a choice. We believers can turn away from sin, but many do not. Most companies, governments, and ministries are overwhelmingly led by men, both believers and unbelievers. What would happen if those men led in a godly manner? The change would rock the world. In just over one generation, we have gone from Father knows best to Father knows nothing. Make no mistake, it takes work to be the man God created us to be. In actuality, the Father knows best when the Father knows God. So what does a man of God look like? I believe you will find his concise answer in 1 Corinthians 16, 13 through 14, which says, be on your guard, stand firm in the faith, be courageous, be strong, do everything in love. Man, I need to get right.
Okay, welcome back, brothers, welcome back. So I'm gonna take this time right now to read a quick bio on my brother, Jeffrey Jones. And it says, Jeffrey C. Jones, senior consultant for GDA Consulting, is an award-winning community organizer who has taught and spoken at various organizations and companies within the tri-state area and across the nation. Jeffrey is certified by the University of Pennsylvania as a social impact strategist and financial planner with over 2 decades of providing leadership development workshops, personal empowerment presentations, along with community building and activist experience. Jeffrey brings a wealth of knowledge and a unique perspective to his work. Jeffrey is active in his local community and does various seminars and events to help empower youth, strengthen families, and build businesses to help them achieve their goals and bring change to the communities. He successfully helped to reduce substance use and crime levels in Philadelphia as a director of the South Philadelphia Prevention Coalition. And he has also worked with Just Leadership USA to reduce the prison population and advocate to end mass incarceration. For his outstanding community work, Jeffrey received the Gold Volunteer Service Award from President Barack Obama. Jeffrey is a strong advocate for community reinvestment and urban economic improvement. He is the founder and lead consultant for GDA Consulting, which is an agency that is aimed directly at helping people to improve their performance in order to reach their maximum purpose in every area of their life. Jeffrey is also author of Words of Encouragement, an award-winning co-host and producer of Community Voice Radio talk show on 106.5 FM. Men, let's welcome my man, Jeffrey C. Jones, affectionately known to me as JJ. What's up, bro?
Not much, man. How's it going? How's it going?
It's going good. It's going good.
Am I mic'd up? Am I good? Can you hear me?
I hope he's mic'd up.
All right, good, good.
I can hear you.
All right, well, I can hear
Welcome,
you too,
man.
brother.
Thank you for joining me, man.
Well, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity, man. I really appreciate it. Really
I've been
appreciate
waiting
it.
for this. You know, man, you planned this a while back.
Yeah.
So now, reading.
I was gonna say you didn't mention we used to work together.
we did do some talk. I miss you there too. We'll get into that off air though, but we definitely can talk about that. But listen, that bio, that's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah.
and we're gonna do that, right?
But
what it didn't say, right, is who JJ is, right? So for our guys here and for the people online, let's talk about JJ the man. You know, where you from? Are you from Philly?
Thanks for that opportunity to share about that. I'm not from Philly, and it's a funny story about that. People always see me in the city, and they always talking about all the Philly sports and everything, and I always tell them, not a Sixers fan, not an Eagles fan. Like, well, where you from? I'm from Jersey. I grew up in Jersey, and I'm not a Giants fan either. But yeah, I grew up in Jersey. Get some class about that, huh? Yeah, I grew up in Jersey, and I was raised by my grandmom for the most part. And she set the foundation on making sure I understood what it meant to give back. She was a hearing impaired, so she lived in a community where they cared for each other because they did not have anything else but themselves. So that allowed for me to see through a different lens of what community building was like and how it is to be part of a community. Because a hearing impaired community, you got to think back some 50 plus years, right? When I was a little boy, it was different. Yeah. So it really got you to understand what it meant to have a community of people who support you. So that kind of laid the foundation from my grandmother, seeing her work that she did and how she was able to sustain and maintain my mom's and her brothers and sisters, and then me as a grandchild. So that was my foundation.
Oh, nice. And I was going to ask you that question too, right? Because aside from finding out if you have a wife and kids as well, I did want to know, what kind of got you started, right? Now I'm hearing grandma, right?
Yeah.
So, but let's see, for the people, you're married, you got a family life?
I do. I got a son who's in the second year at Penn State, daughter who's graduated from Sarah Lawrence College. So, kids are doing well, wife is doing well. She's theater arts. She's creating some plays and shows. So we got some things that's coming up. So going to be excited about that.
Okay. Yeah. So let's just get into it, right? So tell us why you do what you do. And being from Jersey, you're doing it in Philly, right? Philly's making big noise. So tell us why you do what you do.
Yeah, well, even though I was born and raised in Jersey, I grew up in Philadelphia. So, my roots is kind of like really in Philly, but I always got a rep that I'm from Jersey. So growing up in Philly, I saw the opportunity to really begin to galvanize people in a way that they can really make a change in their community and in their lives. So I got started in this actually through PAL, Police Athletic League, and I was Officer Douglas, who really showed me the difference of how you can just advocate for change. We needed a basketball court in our neighborhood where I was growing up at, and no one knew how to get that basketball court. But I just started going around to different business owners and local stakeholders and say, hey, can we get a basketball court? Yeah. And before you know it, they was like, yeah, these kids need a basketball court. So we ended up getting a basketball court. So I saw from that action as a young boy, that wow, this can really lead to some change if you really connect with the right people. And so I just kept doing that community building work ever since then. So that's kind of how I got into it, wanting to see change and knowing the benefit of that change, and then knowing the benefit and power of the community, like again, from what my grandmother showed me.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Because, I know a lot of us feel that in our communities, right? And we just feel like, I'm way down here, ain't what I'm gonna do or say, right?
Yeah.
So that's pretty interesting. It's pretty awesome, to be honest, that as a young man, you just took initiative, and that initiative actually skyrocketed you.
Yeah. I mean, I wanted to play ball.
There you go.
Wanted to play ball.
I did have another question though, because we was talking about your family. One thing that stood out on there was the Golden Service Award. Now, it didn't say that you received the Golden Service Award. It said you got it from Barack Obama.
Right.
I need you to share that experience. What was that like? It wasn't the basketball court that got you that, so what was that about?
Yeah, that experience came when I was working with an organization called Be Me, Black Male Engagement. And that's a national organization that helps to empower and change the narrative for black men and boys. And from that level of work, because they did work, Be Me does work all across the nation. So from that level of work, it was recognized, not just myself, but 14 other brothers. We all got the same Gold Volunteer Service Award. But it was about, again, just changing the narrative for black men and boys, because much too often we hear the negative stereotype and denigrating narratives of black men and boys, and that seems to be the overarching view of how society sees black men and boys. But with Be Me, what we did was we would highlight the aspirational qualities that's in our black men and boys so that we can be seen as valuable assets to our community and not deficits to our community. And that whole narrative change led to an on-swell of getting the understanding of black men and boys are really valuable in our communities. There are more black men in college than in prison, believe it or not. There are more black millionaires than not. There are more black people who contribute to nonprofit organizations than anyone ever knows. There are more black women who are more CEOs than people would think. So that whole narrative change and shift of understanding of how empowered black people were led to us being recognized by President Barack Obama for this Volunteer Service Award. And that experience in and of itself, it was one of those awestruck moments, if you will.
Yeah.
You know, you get to meet, not just the president, but you get to meet the first black president, Barack Obama. Yeah. So, you got to play it cool, right? You're like, oh, I'm cool, I'm good. But then the inside, you geeked out, right? You geeked out like, oh my God, this President Barack Obama. Yeah. And it was great. We got a chance to meet him, had dinner with him, and it was a good experience. And as ever you see him in TV is the same he is in person, so it's just a good experience, and it was great. Yeah.
I had an opportunity to meet him once before, but it was like 30 seconds. But,
yeah, I mean, hey, that's an experience.
It is what it is. It is what it is.
Yeah, you take it.
But listen, I'm sorry, it was Be
Me.
Be Me. Is that still going? Did you guys just like do this project, or did you like bring in black and brown children in and like kind of mentor them up? Like what else was?
Yeah, Be Me is still ongoing. It's still an organization that's doing the same work. I've transitioned away because I had other opportunities to branch out with GDA Consulting. But Be Me is still doing their work. You can check them out, bemecommunity.org. And they're still doing their great community work to uplift the narrative of black men and boys. So black men and boys, and now they're bringing in the black women as well, because we know the importance of our sisters in that space. So
that's fantastic.
They're still doing their great work.
That's fantastic. Now I know that the bio I got is probably 6 months old, so I'm sure that there's a lot more going on that hopefully we'll get into that as well. Something else I wanted to take away from your bio. It said that you had activist experience. Can you talk about that a little bit? Yeah,
part of the work that I do with GDA Consulting is we make sure we can engage the community in understanding what needs to be done in the space of social justice. And part of that work connected me to Just Leadership USA, and Just Leadership is an organization partly founded by Brian Stevenson, who wrote the book Just Mercy and had the movie Just Mercy with Michael B. Jordan. So from his work, we were able to advocate for prison reform so that we can get brothers and sisters who are wrongfully incarcerated out of jail, and then also to reduce prison sentences and just reacclimate them back into society. So that activist level of work helped to bring awareness and change in our communities to support individuals who are transitioning from incarceration back into society, and again at the same time changing the narrative from those who have been incarcerated and coming home so that they're not seen as an ex-con or someone ex-prisoner. They're seen as someone who's rightly served their time or rightly been exonerated for crimes that they did not commit and properly acclimated back into society. So activating and activists in that space is really, really important for me, because it shows the ability to change a person's life, to put them back in a place of success. And so, yeah, that activist work is real, and it's ongoing, because it never stops with the social justice that's happening in our society on multiple levels, whether it's systemic, whether it's racism, or whether it's, oppression. We are still in a space or I should say I'm still in the space, or I could say we're still in the space of being activists in the space of making that change happen. So I'm always out there just advocating for any type of way to elevate the voices of black and brown boys and girls.
Wow, wow.
Yeah.
Listen, I got to tell you guys, man, we worked together for a long time. I know this dude, right? And what it is that when you're at work, you have time to chat, you know, and you talk a little bit. And I never really dug into the stuff that he do outside of the office.
Yeah.
So when I found out more about him, I said, I got to get this brother on our show. So, and I don't know, you know, when you left, and it's been a couple of years, I don't know if you immediately took off with that when you left, if that was the reason you left to start that.
Yeah.
So, in case y'all didn't notice, I'm trying to use this first segment so we find out a little bit, because it's amazing to know that you got friends that you've been around, and you never really sat down and just, you know, talk, and then you find out something like this, right? So, another thing I want to talk about that was there is that you wrote a book, and not only did you write a book, it said award-winning. So. But how did that come about?
Yeah, well, you know what? That's a funny story. Because that book I wrote when we were working together. When me and Ira used to work together, I used to send out emails, not every day, but every so often, with just encouraging messages, whether it was scriptures or whether it was just something that, you know, the Lord had gave me to share. And I mean, wow, I was like years that I would send that out. You know, and so it became a compilation of words of encouragement. So I took all those words of encouragement, put them together in a book, and, you know, got it published. It's actually co-authored by a friend of mine, Rodney Green. I have to give him credit because some of those words of encouragement in the book are from Rodney. But we put it together as a book, just to daily devotions, so that you can, you know, read through and be encouraged and just be inspired for whatever situation that you may be going through, and just, you know, encouragement on your walk with the Lord. So that came from those encouragements there that I would send out through the email, and it helped me.
In the text.
Helped us. Yeah, in the text.
They fired me up.
So.
This dude is awesome, man. I tell you, man, this is my man right here. So, all right, so I think I touched enough on you. I think we helped the audience get to know who JJ is. So now let's just get into the bulk of it, right? Because we want to talk about, and I'm sure there's plenty of people out there who like, man, he's doing quite a bit. I've been thinking about that. How can I get started, right? So when you think about taking action in your community, how do you even go about getting a campaign stuff? I want to start right now when this is over. What was that like for you? What was the steps? What are the steps?
Yeah, well, you know, one of the things in terms of community organizer, even just starting a campaign, you have to assess the community's needs and see what are, if you will, the pain points. What are things that people are really resonating about that want change to happen at? And so when you do that, you get to the point of saying, okay, these are the changes that they want. Then you have to have people come into the space of common interest. And what often happens in that space is that there's more power in alignment than there is in agreement. And the reason why I say that is because often what happens is that when you get a bunch of brothers, organizations, group in a room, if we're looking for agreement, that may not happen across the board. But if we're looking for alignment, for sure we can get some things done. And I say that because if we look at the overarching view of a lot of things that's happening in our society, whether it's gun violence, whether that's poverty, whether that's economic depravity, those are things that we can be in alignment on, even though there may be some ways in the space we may not agree on how we get there. So the bigger overarching thing is, are we aligned on an issue? Is this important enough for all of us to put aside whatever, you know, smaller challenges we would have to say, I want to be aligned on this? And what I found in my experience at work is that often as though people are not in alignment because they're really looking for agreement. I want you to agree with what I'm doing. And if it's not my way, then I'm not going to work with you either. But if we can be alignment, like, okay, Jay, I see what you're doing. I'm doing a little bit different, but at the end of the day, if it's going to help our kids, if it's going to help our community, if it's going to help us do better, then we're in alignment. You know, so that alignment is really, really important. Now, not to say that agreement is not essential, but what I am saying is that alignment part is really what makes a lot of organizations and a lot of individuals fall away from collaborating to the point that they can make a difference. So, to start a campaign, find out what the pain points are, find out how you can become in alignment with other individuals and organizations who have that same interest, begin to build on that, and then begin to touch base with key stakeholders and individuals who can really make an impact and a difference in that space. So, And
that, to me, that was very powerful using that, you know, the analogy you threw in there. And I was going to go there and ask you that. Well, okay, getting in alignment, but like we said, people are people. So have you experienced where I'm stuck on this thing that this is what I want to do? Because I'm trying to, like, do you have a vetting process with the people you go to, or are you just trying to get whoever so we can make this thing happen?
Yeah, it's not, and thanks for the question, it's a really good question. It's not so much that I'm looking for a vetting process, it's an understanding of, is this important to you?
Yeah.
You know, it's like when Malcolm X said, when people are sad, they just cry, right? And nothing happens. But when they get angry, that's when they want change.
Yeah.
So if we are in alignment on an issue that makes you and me angry, then we're gonna make change. Now again, you may not agree if it's like 15 different ways you can get to Center City, right? I might catch the bus, you might catch the sub, some might catch the Uber and all that, right? But at the end of the day, if our goal is to get to Center City, I may be like, I ain't catching the bus, Ira. You stupid for catching the bus, right?
Right.
And you be like, no, Jeff, the bus the best thing.
Right.
But that's what you want. So what I'm saying, we're not in agreement on that, but at the end of the day, well, you gonna meet me at City Hall for the rally? Oh, I'm there.
Yeah.
That's the alignment.
Yeah.
So for me, it's not so much as saying, do I gotta vet him to see, are you in alignment with getting to Center City for this rally? And if you say, yeah, I don't care how you get there, bro.
Yeah. See,
if it's not corrupting the morals or doing anything unjust in that capacity, I don't care how you get there, just meet me there.
Yeah.
And if you meet me there, then we're gonna get this work done. So that's the thing that I'm always looking for. Are you in alignment with this? Because the nuances of trying to get people to be in agreement with you can lead to an argument. Because at the end of the day, if you trying to convince me to catch the bus and I don't like the bus, I mean, bruh, you know what? I'm not going to do it.
Right.
And you ain't going to make me do it.
Right.
Because I'm a grown man.
Right.
But at the end of the day, well, okay, Jay, you don't want to catch the bus. But again, can you meet me at Center City? I got you.
Yeah.
I'm there.
Yeah.
And then when you get there, you don't care how Jay got there, because he's there, you're there, and we're getting the work done. So again, that's why for me, the alignment part is so essential, because it allows for the understanding of what's needing to be done and how collaboration can really take place. And again, a lot of organizations don't collaborate because they're looking for you to agree with their mission in the way that they have to do it. And again, agreement is an important part, but it's not as essential as being in a line for what needs to be done. So, good question.
Now, I can say that you just made that sound, you know, you articulated it so well, it just made it sound easy. But has there been experiences, okay, I'm trying to do this thing.
Right.
You get a bump in the road that you can't cross. I understand the alignment because now you got them in city center. You got them all in the room. But has there been a, you know what, this ain't gonna happen, it just blows up and now you start from square one?
Yeah, and you have to respect that. You have to respect that. Yeah, there's been a lot of times when trying to move towards alignment in a space where you need an individual organization to take part and they just don't want you, have to respect that.
Yeah.
And there's nothing, it's like a saying in politics, no permanent enemies, no permanent friends, right? Just permanent self-interest, you know. And if we have that same common self-interest, then that's fine. So, you know, at the end of the day, if they're not in a space where they can see the need for the collaborative alignment, I'm not going to force or make them. So yeah, there's been plenty of occasions when, you know, things don't mesh in that capacity. But again, I don't hold that energy to dislike or be angry with someone. It's just not their space, and it's just not where they really want to move in that particular time. Now, if you ask Jeff Jones personally, like, wow, would it have been great if they would have did that? Yeah, it would have been great. But at the end of the day, that's not what they wanted to do, and I'm not going to hold them. So yeah, there's been plenty of occasions when individuals and organizations didn't move in that capacity. Case in point, when I was working for the South Philadelphia Prevention Coalition, I'm not going to name the organization's name, but we were working to reduce substance abuse in that South Philadelphia area. And as an activist, I would go out and campaign every other Saturday to try and say, hey, this is what we need. And this one particular organization was like, we don't want that in our community because it doesn't impact our constituents. And I was like, but it may not impact your constituents directly, but it impacts the community. So why not help us help the community? And they were like, no, because it doesn't impact our constituents. So I had to leave it alone. Now, at the end of the day, it did have a rippling benefit effect for them, which they later saw. But you know, at that point when they said no, I just had to let it live. But it didn't stop the work from getting done. So
okay.
Yeah.
Now I know people like, well, I ain't gonna say I'm like that, but I'm trying to be an example. Everything that we think of and want to do, it's like our baby. It's our pet project, right? And we want to do what we want to do. Has someone ever had to tell you your alignment is wrong and redirected you and you actually said okay and went that way, or have you always just stayed this way?
I mean, I'm by no means the owner and expert at the depth of the work that I do. So there's been plenty of times when my alignment was offline, if you will, and had to be readjusted and refocused. And I'll say this humbly, and I'll say this, and I hope that your listeners, viewers, and brothers in this audience will hear me in a humble capacity. It's been very few times that has happened because the things that I place myself in alignment with are bigger than Jeff Jones. You know what I mean? It's not like I'm trying to align something that has an altruistic, ulterior motive that's going to benefit just Jeff Jones. If I'm talking about social justice reform, if I'm talking about increasing educational opportunities for our children, if I'm talking about economic empowerment, if I'm talking about ending mass incarceration, if I'm talking about the wellness of those things, if I'm putting myself in alignment with those issues, if those challenges in our community, then I can find myself being in a better position to say, I'm in the right space, right? Now, what often happens is that maybe some, again, the intricacies of that alignment and it has to be adjusted, but along the way of me doing the work, it's been very few times when the depth of that alignment is off base because it's for a bigger goal, it's for a bigger reason that I'm doing this work to help empower our community. So
fantastic. And I'm glad you answered it in the way you did, because I just wanted to put that out there, like, hey, you're gonna have your challenges. Don't now all of a sudden the first person you went to is like, get out of here, and now you quit. So I just wanted you to touch that to say, hey, that ain't where it stopped.
Definitely not, because doing community work, you have to have, it's almost like ministry work in a lot of regards. You have to have a heart for it, you have to have a calling for it, you have to have patience, you have to understand that you're dealing with people who have different life experiences, and because of those different life experiences, it causes them to react in a way based on what their needs are. So with that being the case, you're going to come across a lot of people who don't agree with you, come across a lot of people who may not like you, may not like the cause that you're advocating for, because it's not their pressure point, it's not their pain point. But we have to get to the space of what is your pressure point, what is your pain point, and seeing where we can find a space to align you with what we're doing and or to advocate for what you need to do. And I just want to throw this out there too, there's been a lot of times when I do the community work, one of the first things I do, going back to your original questions, how do you get started? You do a community assessment, see what the needs are in the community, whether it's social, political, economical, educational, and when you see those needs, then you can better assess where you can begin to start. So there was a situation where I was doing a community mapping, and I did not realize, I'm going in there thinking that, okay, it's a high crime area, so I have to make sure that we're getting community safety in place. Come to find out, it was not a high crime area, it was an educational deprived area. So because there were low educational opportunities and standards in that community, it led to the spiraling effect of the crime that was happening in the community. So I'm saying that to say the community assessment allowed for me to see the real need, what I need to be aligned on, as opposed to what I thought it was when I began doing that particular community-based work.
Nice community assessment. Now, this is good. What we're going to do, though, we're going to stop. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back, continuing this, how to start a campaign. Brothers, we'll be right back in a second.
Cool.
Good morning. My name is Tim Walker, and welcome to another short segment of CSC Black Insight. This month's spotlight is on Dr. Gregory C. Hutchings, Jr. You might ask yourself, who is Gregory C. Hutchings? He is an African-American who is the founder and Chief Executive Officer of Revolutionary Education, LLC. Simply put, he is a nationally known advocate and recognized educational leader, anti-racism activist, and published author. He is a college professor who unapologetically advocates for Black, Indigenous, and people of color and racial equality in education. This great man has over 20 years of educational and college admissions experience. Other occupations Dr. Hutchings acquired were a teacher, school principal, central office administrator, superintendent, and college professor. Dr. Gregory C. Hutchings' sole objective is to abolish anti-racism in education and educational leadership. His mission is to enforce strategic planning, strategic thinking, and implement professional learning to achieve his mission in the field of education. It is his mission, again, to enforce and make aware to school board officials nationally of the races and biases they practice towards students of color, as well as their lack of hiring more African Americans and other people of color in leadership and teaching positions in our nations. In summary, Dr. Hutchings' life work is educational leadership and dismantling systematic racism in schools across America. He has received numerous awards for his leadership in education. He was awarded the 2022-23 Region 4 Superintendent of the Year Award with the Virginia Association of School Superintendents. In 2018, he was the recipient of the Joseph E. Hill Superintendent of the Year Award from the National Alliance of Black School Educators. His expertise has also been requested in education on CNN with Jack Tapper and as an opinion writer for Ed Week. Dr. Hutchings earned his doctorate in educational policy, planning, and leadership from William & Mary College in Williamsburg, Virginia. Currently, he serves on the numerous national boards and is a member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. Dr. Hutchings is a native of Alexandria, Virginia. He and his wife Cheryl are proud parents of 2 children. Dr. Hutchings is the author of Getting Into Good Trouble at School, a Guide to Building an Anti-Racist School System. He is also the author of audiobooks related to fighting racism in education. The ancestors from the motherland of Africa, African Americans, as well as Africans from the diaspora salute you, Dr. Gregory Hutchings, for a job well done. Remember, speaking truth to power is the embodiment of courage, not fear. Okay? Have a blessed day and an even better one tomorrow.
We back. Get my mic on, brother.
Yeah,
we back. As always, Brother Tim, thank you so much for your message, man. It's always good to hear what our black people are doing. Now, just to get back, right, because in our conversation, you were speaking about being an organizer. So I would like to dig into that too, right, because you did touch on some things, right, kind of high level, but if I'm the organizer, how do I, what's my main goal? What are my main responsibilities? If you...
Yeah, the main responsibility again is it's always about making sure you can hear, understand, and know what the people need and want, and then begin to build off of that, and then begin to develop those relationships with individuals who have that like mind and like passion. Organizing is just again about developing the self-interest of others to make the change that we want in our community. If we are not in that space, it's all relational too. If we're not in that space of having that relationship, having that connection, having that understanding, then it's going to be harder for us to do that work together. Using any example of a sports team, I mean, there's been some sports teams that are just like if I could use like the Lakers for an example. I don't know if there are any Laker fans out there listening or in the crowd here. The last 2 years, the Lakers teams, on paper, you would think they're just Russell Westbrook, Anthony Davis, LeBron James, but it just didn't work, right? Yeah. Because the intricacies of those relationships didn't mesh. So you can have great talent, but you have to have talent that understands the mission and again in alignment at the same time without any self-interest. Now, not saying that the Lakers have any problems like that, but just to say that for an example, when you don't have the right people in place, no matter how credentialed they are, it would not work. So that's why it's important to have a relationship that's understanding and building together as one, i.e. Golden State, who generally brought in and developed all their players, and now they have a culture that's different than what the Lakers did. So when you have that different type of connected cultural relationship, you can then begin to build and develop good community layered work. So as an organizer, you want to find those individuals who you can build with, you can grow with, you can have iron sharp as iron, you can have like-minded individuals who can develop the same skill set and get other people as well. Because one thing that I've known in my community building work is that for as good as one individual is, they cannot do it all. So you have to have someone who can also reach others, each one teach one, it takes a village to raise a child, and all those other analogies, Ubuntu, I am who I am because of who we all are. When we build that all together, that's how the community begins to grow and organize an individual who can not necessarily have all the answers, but know how to connect the dots and bring the people together so that we can get the answers as a collective and not as an individual. So that's kind of the basis of what organizing and my understanding and expertise is just be able to get the people in a room who has the same like passion, can reach out to other individuals, and then begin to build and make a change in the community.
All right, so now I'm going to just stay there for a second, because I'm going to go into the weeds, so to speak, with this, right? Because I'm making sure that people are saying, because when we hear words, certain words, we never know where we go, and you said credentials. So as an organizer, can I go knock on doors and that person might have something? Am I going to businesses with people, or am I looking for somebody with letters behind their name, credentials? Like, do I have to find somebody who's up here for me to do it? Or can people who are like me, my own peers, can I start it there?
Yeah, it's a combination of both, but what I found to be most successful is those individuals who are on a grassroots level. It's those who, if you will, may not have a name or initials behind their name or in front of their name. And I say that because for my organization, GDA Consulting, it really morphed from being GDA Consulting. It started out as being Greater Days Ahead. That's where the GDA comes from, Greater Days Ahead. And Greater Days Ahead was what was called a grassroots organization. Didn't have any real funding, wasn't well known in the city of Philadelphia, and nobody knew who Jeff Jones was. This is before any of the awards accolades. But I was doing the work. I was mentoring young boys. And then from mentoring young boys, their parents would be like, wow, this is great for our kids. How can we do more? How can we help you? And I was like, well, you can help me by, making sure the park's clean and making sure. So they began doing that. So that's kind of like how it spiraled. So I'm saying that to say that if we start from the grassroots level, then we can get to the point where we can start getting the attention and the support from those individuals who have the accolades and credentials in that space. So when I was saying in credentials, it's not necessarily from the academia or from society-based letters front and back. It's from the credentials in terms of, as you were saying, the hood, street cred, you know what I mean? Because, you go to certain areas where you're known, where I'm known, we're credentialed in that space. Ain't nobody got to speak for Ira because that's the dude, right? Nobody got to speak for Tone because that's the dude. So credentialed in that space is just as much as someone with the PhD, MBAs and all that in front and back of their name. And those individuals, I know there may be some watching and viewing who are doing that great work, and I'm not saying that they aren't necessary, but what I am saying is that to start, you don't need that. You just need those individuals who got the boots on the ground, hands in the dirt, doing the work, and then we begin to have those individuals, then you can really begin to develop the community that needs the support, because nothing happens with us without us. So we have to be in that space, because it's one thing for take those individuals coming from outside the community, helicopter in and say, this is what needs to be done. And it could be a great plan, it could be a beautiful plan. I've seen quite a few of those plans that have been successful, but what often happens and is missed is that the community is like, you don't hear us though. You don't hear. And that's kind of like where the grassroots organizations comes in and be like, this is what they need. And then that's where the alignment comes, because then you have those individuals who are, if you will, credentialed with the academia standards, and then you have the grassroots organizations come together, then they're aligned, like now we know how to, this is where the empowerment comes. Now we know how to empower the community, because if I need someone who has the boots on the ground, hands in the dirt, i.e. Ira Lark, and then we come with someone who's, i.e. credentials in this higher echelon, if you will, then it's like, okay, we know how to make this community be empowered. Because Ira is telling me what I need to know. I know how to get what we need together collectively. We're going to get this work done. So that's how it all starts in that capacity and begins to, build off of it with sustainability.
Now you're saying a lot of stuff because the next question I was going to ask you was, how do you go about, as an organizer, create that community action plan, like the planning, right? And you're saying a lot of stuff. So you said that, you were doing things for youth and the parents were like, hey, that's great. But how did you do a town hall? Are you putting flyers up? Are you going, like, I'm trying to figure that part out. Like, how did you even get people to have their kids there that you could now start expanding? Now you're building your cred and people know you're doing the work. Like, how did you make yourself known?
Well, it's like a twofold thing. One was that I made myself known by, like you said, putting out the flyers about the youth program that I had. And two, one of the things that I always advocate for and always encourage people to do is to attend any of the town hall meetings in your community, city council meetings that are had at City Hall, or any type of event where there's an awareness of individuals who are talking about what's happening in a city, community, or town or neighborhood. Make yourself present in those spaces and begin to get to know some of the key stakeholders in those areas. And for me, that's what I began doing, from the flyers, from the parents reaching out to me, I began to plug myself into, town hall meetings, city council meetings, police district meetings, any meeting that they were having in the community, so that I could have my thumb on the pulse of what's happening in the community. I was there so that I could understand who the major players are, schedule meetings to talk with them, let them know about the work that I'm doing, and align myself with other individuals who are doing that work as well. develop a mentor and a mentee relationship with some individual or individuals who are doing that like-minded work that you're doing, and then begin to make the connections there, because it's all about leveraging in social capital as well. And by social capital, what I mean is individuals who are doing the work, who you can then invest in your time to learn from them, and then they invest in their time sharing with you, and that's building social capital. And do that across the board consistently, then you begin to get yourself in a position of being recognized and noticed. There was a situation where I was doing my work with Greater Days Ahead at the time, and United Way was having this fellowship grant, and I was like, well, I'll apply, but nobody knows Jeff Jones. I mean, And sure enough, I got there. I applied. I got accepted into the fellowship, and I mean, it was like at the time, who's who in Philadelphia, was on that United Way fellowship. It was like the who's who of Philadelphia, all the names, yada yada, and Jeff Jones. And I'm like, I'm like, okay, all these big to-do people and Jeff Jones. And a part of me, to be honest, had what's called the imposter syndrome, like I don't really belong here, but I'm here type of thing. I had the imposter syndrome. And I'm not going to deny that in full transparency. But when I was there, I also remember, again, with my grandmother who was hearing impaired, she would tell me, always know you belong wherever you're at. Yeah. And so when I got there, I was like, okay, I belong here. And so I began to work hard because of the imposter syndrome to make sure that I was valued in that space. Little did I know that I was not in a braggadocious way, but I was out working all those other big name people to the point that they were like, this dude know what he's doing. This dude, he's the dude. And I'm like, well, I'm just trying to not look like a fool.
Right.
I'm just trying not to, not to be the one that they be like, how he get here. I'm trying to be not to be that dude. So from that experience though, and I'm hopefully I'm not making this too long a story, but from that experience, I learned that, not just from my hard work, but that I do know what I'm doing. You know what I mean? And it was well respected from other individuals. And because of that, I was able to leverage it into social capital and learning from others. And so now I have a good depth of relationship with those individuals who are the who's who in Philadelphia because of that experience, because they know the work and sincerity of Jeff Jones. Every fellowship meeting that we had with United Way, they would lead off with a strategy session. And they would say, okay, we need someone to lead a strategy session. It was like maybe 5 minutes at the beginning of the session. And I was like, okay, I'll do it. And I began doing it at the beginning of every session. And it just became organic for me to come up with good strategies that they would sit there and be like, that was good. How'd you do that? And it was just based on me, again, wanting to make sure I knew that I belonged and to eliminate the imposter syndrome. And so, that's kind of how, for me, it morphed into that space of being in a position of being a community organizer.
See, now you mentioned the grant or now, because I was going to ask you, like, when you got the kids, was it at church? How did you even get a space to actually bring people in to start mentoring? How did all those things go about, right? And because people gotta understand you're a special dude, right? So for you to be able to do what you did, that opened doors, like doors flew open, but I know there are gonna be some people that are like, that's just not gonna work for me, I just know it, right? He just happened to be, he Jeff Jones, and you pulled it off. But I'm trying to get to, because I'm trying to make sure that it's understood here that it's not complex. You just gotta know the direction, you just gotta know what you want and what you're trying to do.
Right.
And when you said, you started mentoring, that went to my head like, okay, well, was they coming to the crib? Were you outside at the playground? How did you get people to come to you, and where? Where did the money come? Like, because again, I know the company we were working for and give you the bread so that you can build that thing, right? So that's just another piece of the puzzle that I'm just trying to draw out. Like, you ain't got to get too deep, but just like, did the grant, being in that space, get you the money to do it? Did you have it prior to that? I'm just trying to fill that part out.
When we were working together, I guess we don't want to say the company name. Right? When we were working together, I did not have any other finances to do this. I just had a passion and desire to do it.
Right.
And the reason that I left when we were working together was because I did not feel as though at that time the organization was really lending itself to helping black people. I really did not. I was like, this is ridiculous. I was working in a part of the company that saw all the money coming in. Then I also heard how much they were giving back. Like, this is not helping my people. So I was really impassioned and emboldened, like, I got to make a difference.
Yeah.
And the area where I was living at the time in Philly, they had a recreation center there, and I knew that recreation center had some troubled youth, because I would go over there and play ball, and I would see the guys, and I would kind of talk to them after a couple games, and I'd be like, you know what? I'm just going to start a mentoring program with these guys. Play ball and just talk to them and just build off of that. And I was fortunate enough I had a couple dollars where I could buy pizza after the mentoring sessions, and then when those couple dollars started to get a little less, I actually went to Little Caesars, like, look, I got this mentoring program. Can y'all help me out? And they was like, cool. Little Caesars, many of you may or may not know, but Little Caesars, one of the most inexpensive pizza places out there. I think their pizza at the time was like $5. So they were like, sure, we need 2 pizzas. Yeah. So I went to them, and that began a partnership with Little Caesars in terms of understanding what the mentoring program was doing. And then once Little Caesars was like, yeah, this is a cool mentoring program, they began promoting it through their local franchise where I was living. And they touched base with the council member who was, again, in that district, and said, this guy's doing some good work here. And so it kind of snowballed from that passion of just wanting to connect with the young men, young boys actually, who I saw on the playground. And then once I began pouring into them, that's when their parents, like I mentioned before, began to take interest in that. And the parents then, they knew people. See, and that's what I'm saying, that's where that social capital comes in at. It's like, you know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody, and it's all based upon being in alignment to help these youth. Everybody saw that this Greater Days Ahead program was helping the youth and mentoring them. They were also feeding them, so it was just like, it wasn't just pouring into them just, aesthetically. It was just pouring into them nutritionally and health-wise and spiritually at the same time. So it snowballed in that capacity. So I guess to answer your question, like, an individual who gets into this, it doesn't take a special person per se, but you do have to have that passion and know where you're headed at in the direction which you need to get done, and leverage in every opportunity to make a difference with that social capital, because people know people who want to help.
That's a pretty cool way to start. And I was that he, with the names of names, you was the strategist, and I hope you didn't miss that. He was getting pizza for kids and just said, all right, I don't know what to do next, I ain't got no money. He just asked, you just went to Little Caesars and said, hey, can you help? Like, it wasn't even part of the strategy, you just thought, hey, let me ask somebody something.
Yeah, well, here's the thing, it was like, I would go get pizza, like I said, I would buy it at first, but then when the money started getting low, just like, they see me every it was a Tuesday, they see me every Tuesday coming in and buying a pizza. So one Tuesday, I was like, the cashier dude was like, "Guy, you always buying pizza?" I said, "It's a mentoring program." He's like, "Tell me more about it." So I told him about the mentoring program. Then the following Tuesday I came in, he was like, "Mentoring program?" I was like, "Yeah. You want to help out?" He said, "How can I help? How can we help?" So it began in that capacity. So from them seeing me being consistent, a customer of their store, it allowed for that, again, organic conversations and develop in that capacity. So I'm saying again that to say that when we're in positions to really make a difference in our community, it just doesn't, and well, I'm gonna say just doesn't, you don't necessarily have to need a big grant or an opportunity to put out an ask. Put out an ask with people who know people. I didn't know dude was gonna tell his manager about the mentoring program, manager was gonna reach out. I did not know that, but I shared it with him, and because I shared, opportunities opened up in that capacity. So that's kind of been like the secret to my success ever since, and I've never been, if you will, quiet in that space of asking individuals like, hey, can you help out? Would you want to help out? This is what I'm doing. Want to take part? If they say no, they say no, but at least had an opportunity to ask. I always like to give people the opportunity to say no, and also to exercise their right to say yes.
Awesome. That's just like 6 degrees of separation, right? That's
for sure.
That's awesome. All right, so we done got our plan. we got people. Now, let's talk about mobilizing. You're gonna do this, you're gonna do that. Holding, I don't know if I want to use it, but holding people accountable, making sure people doing what they're doing, because I'm the organizer, right? You would feel like it's all on me. I done got this thing started, so what's that like? And especially, I don't know how little or how big it could get for you, but I guess people are looking to you like, what's the next move? Can you talk about that experience? I know you got experience in that, so how do I get people moving now that I got them?
Mobilizing, you have to first, before we get to the mobilizing part, decide what the goal is, what the target is,
Right.
Because you can't get them mobilizing. They get out there. Where we going?
Go do something.
Yeah, go do something. We got to determine what that is. For an example, with an organization that I'm working with right now, we were advocating for additional crossing guards.
Okay.
So we knew that the goal was to get 45 new crossing guards hired in a particular area of the city. So that was our goal. Now, in order to get to that goal, the strategy behind that was, who do we meet with? Who do we meet with that has the control and the power and the influence to get these 45 crossing guards out? We determined who that was within the city jurisdiction. Okay, we met with those individuals, and then after we met with those individuals, then we can then mobilize parents, in this case parents, to be able to get out and say, hey, we've met with you guys, now are you going to do this?
Yeah.
So setting a goal has to be first before you can mobilize people, because they have to know where they're going. It's just like God's chosen people. They don't want to be wandering 40 days and 40 nights. They're like, yo, dude, where's this going?
Yeah.
You want to have them go somewhere, so you want to let them know that this is the promised land that we're getting to. And along the way of getting to that promised land, there will be some who may just be frustrated and weary and be like, I can't do this anymore because it's taking too long. Because community building work, again, has to be that passion, that mission, that calling, because at the end of the day, there will be, as quick and as easy as this conversation is between me and you, is not as quick and as easy as how community work happens.
Right.
Sometimes it's going to take years, sometimes it's going to take decades, but and it's the effort and energy you put forward into it that allows you to be consistent and committed to it, because that's also a key ingredient. Consistency and commitment leads to the compassion that you have to get the work done. You can't separate the two, because again, community building work can be very arduous and strenuous at times, emotionally taxing. Self-care is very important in community building work. Again, with another organization that I'm working with, we trying to get this athletic field built, and we had all the I's dotted, T's crossed, go to the zoning board, and they tell us no. So it's just like, so now we got to re-strategize,
right?
Reapproach this whole situation and go back to the zoning board and have them understand the need for this field now. So that's kind of like how it goes. So it's getting the goal first, though, going back to your question, getting the goal set first, understanding who you need to meet. It's like backward planning. What is the goal? What do we need before we get there? And then once we determine what we need before we get there, we have the key milestones, and then we mobilize the people to reach every milestone. And also, to add to what your question also insinuated, was that there are responsibilities that you would assign to individuals, right? And in community building work, unless it's a paid organization, if it's a volunteer-based organization, no one's going to get paid. So you have to make sure that the responsibility that you're assigning to them, and I say assign, is a responsibility that they are going to own, right? And it's, again, what their passion is. You're very skilled at what you do, right? You're a communicator. So if I gave you an opportunity to talk to people, I know for a fact Ira ain't going to agonize over that. He ain't going to agonize, I got to talk to a bunch of people, because you're a communicator, right? But if I gave you a skill of, and I'm just throwing it out there, mathematics, you'd be like, yeah, Jeff.
That's a good choice.
You'd be like, yeah, Jeff, I don't know about that. That ain't, I do 1 or 2 problems, but after that, that's my limit. So I'm saying that again to say that when you're organizing, you have to, I don't want to say have to, it would be best if you align people with skills and responsibilities that they're passionate at, so they can lean in full force and be able to report back at the next meeting, because you should have regular meetings as well, with an update on, this is who I talked to. Like, again, if you're the communicator, this is who I talked to, and this is what they said, this is what we got to do. And then the math person be like, oh yeah, these are numbers we need, this is what we do. And then everybody comes together. So you do, it would be best to assign roles to individuals based on their skill sets. And if we are doing this work correctly, it will happen organically. And again, I met with a charter school entity that I'm working with now, and we had a meeting with a few parents, and organically in that meeting, 5 parents jumped into roles that I did not necessarily ask them to take, but they knew that they could help out in.
There was a need.
So they knew it was a need. So when you're putting together a community-based organization and it organically happens that way, that's how the empowerment comes, because now they're taking ownership of part of the process. And when they're taking ownership of part of the process, you'll get greater results, because you know what? They want to see it win. Because they're invested at that point. Like if I've asked you to talk to 15 people, right? to help get this done, and you're a great communicator, you talk to those 15 people, you're invested.
Yeah.
So now if somebody come back and say, it ain't gonna work, you're like, no, I didn't talk to these 15 people.
Right.
So we gotta get this thing moving.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and the numbers guy be like, we done crushed the numbers. We gotta get this thing moving, because everybody's now invested and they take ownership in that space. Now, the organizer themselves doesn't have to be the mass visionary to come up with the master plan, because like I always said, and I might even say it today, none of us is smarter than all of us. So for my expertise as an organizer, it's just to make sure we're focused and synergized and aligned, but it's not to be the mastermind. So okay, just a big plan. Because if I'm doing this correctly, if we're doing this correctly, the voice that resonates throughout the masses of the community, if you will, can be the voice that comes up with the best idea for the community, because it's the Ubuntu. I am who I am because of who we all are. We're connected. We're intricately linked together. So as an organizer, that's the main space that I would try and position myself into, of someone who can make sure that we maintain that alignment and that focus properly, giving responsibilities to those who are taking part so that they can have ownership. And when they have ownership, they have stake in the game and have skin in the game. I'm sure you've been in situations where, you know, you've gathered brothers or sisters or people together and, you know, yeah, I'm on fire. Yeah, let's just do this. This is the right thing to do. This is the right thing to do, right?
Yeah.
And next week, they ain't there.
Yeah.
And then week after that, they ain't there because they had no skin in the game. And then the same flip note, same thing. You got people who are skin in the game. They there, not, you know, all the time because things happen, but they're there most of the time because they got skin in the game.
Yeah.
They've put in their effort, their energy, and their time into it, so they want to see the results of this. So that's where, when we're doing community work, that's where the secret sauce is at. If you can align them with the responsibilities so that they can take ownership and skin in the game, because again, that's their pain point. You know, they have their valued interest in that space, and when they have their valued interest, now you value them in the space of who they are and what needs to be done in their community. There's no one who can say they have a valued interest when not taking responsibility serious.
Yeah, that's good stuff. And I like that you said it could be a year, it could be 10 years, because that's another thing to know, that, hey, don't quit. It just might draw out. So I like that. So being told we're going to take another quick break, and we come back. I think when we come back, we'll be closing out the show. You've been awesome, man. We'll be right back.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Yep. So when we come back.
All I wanna do is bless your name. Bless your name. For all you've done, all I wanna do is give you praise. Give you praise all day and bless your holy name. All I wanna do is bless your name. Bless your name. Bless your name. For all you've done. For all you've done. All I wanna do is give you praise. Give you praise. Give you praise all day. And bless your holy name. Bless your holy name. For the blessings you pour upon my soul, for the honor and strength that you bestowed, for the peace, love, and joy that you've given to me, for mercy and grace every day that I see. All I wanna do is bless your name. Bless your name. Bless your name. For all you've done. For all you've done. All I wanna do is give you praise. Give you praise. Give you me alone for the ransom you paid to take me as your own. I'm justified by faith, and I'm here today. I'm safe and secure. Thank God I can say all I wanna do is bless your name, bless your name, bless your name for all you done, for all you done. All I wanna do is give you praise, give you praise, give you praise all day, and bless your holy name. Your holy name. And I wanna say thank you, Jesus. Thank you for loving me, caring for me, Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, and bless your holy name. Bless your holy name. Wanna say thank you, Lord, thank you, Lord. Thank you for my health and strength. Thank you for a roof over my head. Thank you, Lord, for saving me and caring for me. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, and bless your holy name. Bless your holy name. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you for loving me, caring for me, and caring for me. Thank you, and bless your holy name. And bless your holy name. Hallelujah.
Thanks to the male chorus for that selection. And we're just gonna keep going because we at that point now. We just gonna wrap this up real quick.
Okay,
So
okay.
we talk about mobilizing people and all of that. And you did say people have to have that passion. They it does come from them, and if they got skin in the game, they'll do it. But do you, as an organizer, as Jeff Jones, matter of fact, just anybody in general, how do you inspire, motivate? Is that necessary? Do you have to sometimes step in and say, "Come on, I need you"?
Yeah, I mean, it takes a certain level of gravitas, it takes a certain level of charisma, if you will, to be able to stand in front of people and send out a message. But is that like the main thing that you need? I would say no, because I always tell the youth, you should never allow anyone to create from within you a motivation that you don't already have. You should be self-motivated. It's just like certain issues, again, it goes back to what are you aligned on, what are issues you're aligned on. If this is not something you're aligned on, you're not going to be motivated at. It's just like, again, if I could use a sports analogy, if you don't like the Eagles, you ain't going to root for the Eagles.
Simple.
If you don't like the Sixers, you ain't going to root for the Sixers, right? But if you're aligned with rooting for those teams, then you have that interest. Yeah, you're motivated to root for them. So again, it's not a matter of creating a motivation for them. This should be a motivation that they already had. I shouldn't put out a town hall meeting to say, reduce gun violence, right? And people come out there, and I got to motivate them to be reducing gun violence.
Right.
Well, why are you here?
Right.
Now, if you're here just to hear information, that's fine. But then I know that you're not someone who probably is going to take part in the work to get this done, to reduce gun violence, because that's not your motivation. Yeah. Your motivation may be in another level of community work that I may have to engage you in. So again, it's not per se you got to motivate them to get them riled up, because one of the things I've also encouraged people to do, we don't want people to move off of emotion, we want them to move off of self-interest. Yeah. And that's vitally different. If I get you to move off of emotion, when that emotion dissipates, there goes your opportunity for work. But if it's off your self-interest, then it's not just your emotion that you're engaging in, it's the interest of what has to be done. Because again, there's going to be a lot of tired nights, a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of nights when you're like, this is hard work. but it's in your self-interest. It's in the interest of your community, your family, your loved ones, your constituents, whoever that would be. It's in your self-interest that you have to get this done. That's why sometimes you see a lot of great leaders, politicians and the likes, you know, say, I have to do this. You know what I mean? It's not a have to because they feel some type of, you know, ego-driven machismo or anything like that. It's a have to because this is in my self-interest that I'm invested in this to the point where I know that it has to get done. And it's not a motivational thing because, again, motivation dissipates. And if I get you to be motivated just off of emotion, once I'm done that emotional part of it, then you could, you know, there's no more engagement into it. Our mind should always be thinking on how we should get this community work done, even when we're not motivated to do it. So it's not about, you know, just getting them motivated to do it, because if we get them motivated to do, good luck with that. Because again, Ira, on top of that, as a leader, then what do you have to do every time you meet with them? You got to motivate them. You got to, you know, say, come on, brother, come on, brother, come on, brother, come on, brother. Then next week, come on, brother. And after a while, you're like, I'm tired, brother. Why don't y'all just do it?
Your energy in the wrong place, right?
So it's not about that. It's a matter of, again, their self-interest, their investment, they're self-motivated. So then when they come back, we need to pour into each other in that capacity. Because it could be a time when you're in front of the men, and if we're all aligned and connected, they could just encourage you for word. You know, even though you're the leader, they're encouraging you with a presence and a word. So now you don't have to, I got to pour into them. So, you know, for me, and again, it may work for other organizers, but for my level of success, it's just tapping into their tapping into understanding, are they self-motivated about this particular issue? And if they are self-motivated, I don't have to spend nights writing a rah-rah speech to just get them to be motivated, because they're going to be invested in it because it's of their own self-interest to do so, whether it's for their family, loved ones, constituents, and so forth. So, yeah, I try not to, you know, get to the point where, you know, I try and motivate, you know, that's a different capacity. Like, you know, I do motivational speaking, that's different. But as far as community-based stuff, I try not to get to that space of motivating, because that's, because often it can also seem inauthentic at times too. You know, it can seem like, you know, he's just a talking head. He just wants to rally people up. You know? What you gonna do? Give a speech? You know,
and after this, do nothing.
And then do nothing. But at the end of the day, you know, I like to be of substance and standard, and let the quality of the work speak for itself. And the work has to be the people's work. You know, and not my work. And I guess sometimes too, and I'll get off of it. I think sometimes too is that when we look at, you know, do you motivate and inspire them? We sometimes see it from the lens of not good or bad, just as part of the context of what I want to say is that we see the great leaders of times past, the MLKs, the Martins, the Ella Bakers, and those likes who are very great, in the Barack Obama, Michelle Obama, who are very great and articulate orators, and we say that's what we got to do. We got to do it like that. We got to be able to speak well like that. And again, that's a component to it, but at the end of the day, there's individuals like Brian Stevenson, like, you know, Fannie Lou Hamer, not articulate at all. Stokely Carmichael, not most articulate people of all, but they got the work done. Because when they spoke, people understood what they were talking. Specifically, Fannie Lou Hamer. Fannie Lou Hamer, of all the great social justice advocates and civil rights advocates, she was probably the most least academically credentialed of all. And she spoke with so much country slang and stammer, but people understood what she was talking about. So she didn't have to be like the rah-rah motivational type like all those others. So when we look at it from that capacity, sometimes we're thinking, this young man, this young sisters, they got it. Look at the way they speak. At the end of the day, it's just them speaking. And nothing against that. Please don't hear me outside of that. But what I'm saying in context is that we have to put that into its proper space of, because they have that gift and skill, does not mean that that's essential, that everyone needs that gift and skill to be a good leader, because they really don't. They really don't.
People come with your own fire, more likely to have success.
You come with their own fire, or either come with your own wood and let the other people light the fire.
There you go.
You know.
There you go. Listen, man. You know, I appreciate you taking the time, because I know you're busy. I know you out of here as soon as you leave us.
I got to go over to Phoenix.
So what I want to do is I want to close the show, because it is November the 5th. We know what time it is, right? So, and I know that you see TV, you see fly, everybody's go vote, go out and vote, right? And we want to do that, but it's a little bit more to it, right? And I know me and you were talking off a little bit, so I want you to let the people know what it is to vote.
So of course voting is important. We all know the understanding historicity of voting and voting rights and that nature, so I don't want to belabor that. But one of the things that are often challenge people in general is to not just to get out and vote, but understand who you're voting for, what are the issues, and be an informed and educated voter. Oftentimes when we are going to the polls, it's just aesthetics in terms of, from like Ira was saying, what we see on TV, what's on the news, and things of that nature, and the commercials that come out, sound clips and sound bites and all that. But we need to engage ourselves in being informed, engaged, and educated voters, so that when we go to the polls, we know what the real issues are and we know how they align with what our community needs are. Philadelphia, not in this upcoming election, November 8th, but Philadelphia will be voting for its 100th mayor in 2023. There are a lot of candidates who are throwing their names in a hat to become mayor of Philadelphia. And if we really want change in our city, whether that's for the school district, whether that's for our local community, whether that's law enforcement or anything, we have to be able to understand what each one of those candidates who are running for mayor is going to do for the city of Philadelphia. Now, as far as November 8th, it's a small portion of time for us to upspeed our understanding, but we, hopefully, a lot of you may have already done it, educate ourselves on who these candidates really are. There are some candidates who, some people would say, they're not the right person. Well, why not? What are their platform? What are their issues? What are they really into? And if you come to find out what are they really into, like, wow, this person might be better than this person who I thought. So it's not just about going to the polls or parties or whatever you're aligned with in that capacity. And I'm not trying to advocate for anyone, or I want to be bipartisan as I possibly can, but what I do want us to understand is we have to educate ourselves as voters on every election, because for as much as we educate ourselves on every level, as much as we can make the true change that we want, because it could happen in some elections, which it did for the president, you go and not be as educated on the total ramification of issues, and look who's in office. You're like, how'd that happen? How'd that happen? And you voted, right? And you voted, because some of us, y'all know who I'm talking about, but the president, some of y'all voted for the president and that guy still won, right? So it's just like, how did this happen? So it's a bigger picture when it comes to just voting. And when we see that and say that, yes, that's important, but it's also dig a little deeper, like why, who, and what do they stand for, what are their platform issues, and how everything plays out. I would love, if ever, an opportunity to come and do a session about political literacy and how we can understand intricacies of the political situations within the city of Philadelphia and nationally, so that we can develop a grassroots base of understanding of what it means to systemically and correctly go to the polls and vote. Because sometimes, and again, none of us here, none of your listeners or viewers, but sometimes we go to the polls and vote incorrectly because we don't understand what's happening, and then we understand, and then we get to the point and say, what happened? And you voted. That's the most frustrating thing, when you go to the poll and vote, and then you stand there and say, "What happened? I voted."
Yeah.
It becomes frustrating. So
I'm glad you did that. And that's why I wanted to talk about that, because I woke up in that aspect. But for many years, you get to the poll, they give you the thing, just push that button, get everybody. Boom. Yeah, we've done that for a lot of years, right?
Yeah.
So I wanted to put that out there. Listen, we're ending it on that note. Just get out. Go, JJ made a lot of sense, but we do need you to go out and vote.
Yeah,
it does make sense to see who you're voting for.
Yeah.
So again, brother, I appreciate you coming out, man.
Thank you, man.
You're awesome, man.
Appreciate you.
I enjoyed your time. Everybody, we'll see you guys next month. Take care.
Thank you all.
Yo, dude, that was fantastic.